the question was posed. If Madonna really loved Tupac, then why didn't she use her money to bail him out? Yeah, let's get into some of this straight game.
Yeah. Blackjack. Life is like a game of cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Yeah. Blackjack. To play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY, Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button notification. It's very much appreciated. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, and tell a friend. And like I always say, if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and hit that little bell notification right below this video. I'm going to get right into it. Excuse me. There was another question asked by another one of my subscribers. And the question is, if Madonna loved Tupac so much, why didn't she use her money to bail him out of jail? And that's a great question. I often wondered that myself, but when you take a step back and you understand and look at the facts that were presented at that particular time, I don't think it's really hard to see why she didn't do it. Let me say this first and foremost. I believe if Madonna had an opportunity to marry Tupac Shakur, she would have. If Madonna had an opportunity to have the kids of Tupac Shakur at the time that they were dealing with each other, I think she would have. As a matter of fact, there was that letter that they wrote, the controversial letter somebody was trying to auction off and so on and so forth, right? But you can look at that information in there and see, how, where Tupac was versus where she was and so on and so forth. But more importantly, when people ask that question, why, if she loved him, why didn't she bail him out with her own money? She was rich and so on and so forth. That's true. But most people don't really understand the fact that Tupac Shakur married Keisha Morris while he was incarcerated. Now, if Madonna had true feelings for Tupac at that particular time, which I believe she did, if you put yourself in her situation, would you go and bail out another a woman's husband out of prison for $1.4 million of your money, knowing that he was going to be with her when he was released from prison? From the facts that we knew at that particular time. And if you can answer that question honestly, the answer probably would be no. And so I think that was one of the main reasons, if not the reason, that Madonna did not bail Tupac out of prison with her own money at that particular time. But then you got to look into it a little bit deeper. Understanding how Tupac felt about his relationship with Madonna, and he said it in that letter, as far as him dating white women and appearing to be some kind of sellout to his race and black women and so on and so forth at that particular time. That was how he felt. That was how he was raised. That is what he knew at that particular time. And I think for Madonna, probably in reading and going over the communications that they had, phone conversations or whatever, that she was, less likely to, do something like that and commit so much of her hard-earned money to somebody who felt that way, even though Tupac was truly honestly being honest about how he felt. And I'm sure she, probably felt whatever she felt, whether she respected it, whether she rejected it, whatever it was at that particular time. And so I think that would be another hurdle in the path of trying to get Tupac out of jail with her own money, based on caring for him and having feelings for him, on side of Tupac being married to Keisha Morris at that particular time. like I said, when you take that into consideration. And like I said, when people ask questions, I don't really think they think it all the way through of all of the facts that lie in front of the question that they're actually asking, if you will. And so another thing on side of that, right? You got to look at the fact that her situation, as far as publicity wise, if you will, right? Tupac was incarcerated for the alleged situation with the young lady in New York. How would that optically appear to her fans, to her label, and public relations overall, in dealing with women's rights and so on and so forth? You got to understand, even though the young lady was a black woman, but she was yet a woman, and how women would see that, and Madonna, actually going to bail out in the money, the $1.4 million. You can imagine what kind of headlines that would have made. Bail out Tupac Shakur, this thug rapper, so on and so forth, right? And he allegedly did something to a woman. Optically, that wouldn't appear or be viewed favorably in Madonna's to Madonna's credit, if you will, right? And so that was another thing on side of the way Tupac felt, on side of him marrying Keisha Moore's, behind bars. That said a lot. Like I said, once again, what woman do you know? And there's some that will, don't get me wrong, but what woman do you know of a statue as high profile as Madonna that's going to pay a black man's bail in prison, and then that black man get out and go home to his black wife, after she paid the money to bail him out? I could still hear people talking about that today, how crazy Madonna was if that actually happened. But then look at the trajectory of things. If she did do that, yeah, that changes the whole dynamic of Tupac even, having to go with Death Row, because he wouldn't have had to, So that would be another thing that you could kind of throw in there, even though it didn't happen, but that would be one of the things that would have changed the course of history in that situation, when you think about, if she did, but she didn't, right? And then you go into the fact that, okay, once everything had taken place and it was what we saw in relation to Tupac's situation overall, what I understand it to be is that, Madonna's long-standing relationship with Warner Brothers Records, and in which Atlantic Records was the company who actually put up the $800,000, was a subsidiary of Warner Brothers, if you will, or one of the boutique labels under Warner Brothers. And so what I understand is that Madonna actually, put in the word as to what that was, and encouraging that to happen, along with, the situation with Suge Knight, went to see Tupac and so on and so forth. And they came up with some kind of agreement, as well as Interscope putting up the other money, the other part of the bail money, because like I said, Tupac needed a cash bail. He couldn't do a property bail, right? And so by that being what it is, from what I understand, Madonna had put in some kind of word, good word, like, whatever. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard. With her long-standing relationship with Warner Brothers. Like I said, she's made Warner Brothers over $1 billion. So, and I would think that her word would actually mean something. So, and then you seen once when Tupac got out of jail, they kind of, link back up and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, like I said, so those would be some of the reasons that I would think that, Madonna wouldn't bail Tupac out. The first being, he married Keisha Moore in jail. No, you know what I mean? A second, the communications that they had in regards to, how he felt about the pressure that he felt like he was under, from the black community, and him, betraying them and so on and so forth in regards to that. But he had later on, basically said how much that he had changed and thought about it after, being in prison, after, being shot, after being accused of the situation that he was accused of and sent to prison for. And so with all of those things, as well as, you know, Madonna being a superstar and the negative publicity that could have affected her, you know, with making a move like that. You know what I mean? I think the odds were basically not in her favor to make a move like that. But like I said, you know, hopefully, if it is true that she did, you know, kind of put a favorable word over there to Atlantic Records, like I said, you know, in her long-standing relationship with Warner Brothers, then I think that would, you know, that was, you know, good enough, or like I said, a good incentive for Warner Brothers to make that move. They recoup their money 5 times over. You know what I mean? From that perspective. Not only that, but like I said, you know, at that particular time, Interscope had a relationship in their dealings with Warner Brothers as well. So I think that it all worked hand in hand. You know, them being somewhat label mates, you know, down the line through subsidiaries and things like that. It worked for what it worked for. But yeah, that's the reason why I think that Madonna didn't, you know, and other than their relationship being fully transactional, you know what I mean? You know, from what Tupac talked about, you know. So yeah, but yeah, I don't think no woman in her right mind, you know, after a guy is in jail and he chooses to marry somebody else in prison, other than what Madonna would think about herself as being the prize in that situation. But that just goes to show you how much Tupac was who he was. Soon thereafter, he basically annulled the marriage with Keisha Morris, and yeah, and you know, the situation as we know it with Suge and Death Row, and like I said, you know, him coming under the umbrella of Death Row, not actually being signed to Death Row, but just coming under the umbrella. And like I said, you know, the history was made. And so yeah, that's the reason why I think that, you know, not that Madonna didn't care for or love Tupac, you know what I mean, but people, you know, you got people, you know, just with regular money that wouldn't pay somebody's $1,500 bail, more likely a $1.4 million bail cash. So, you know, to question Madonna about that is kind of crazy. But when you understand, Tupac was married to somebody else, you know, and like I said, and at the end of the day, he felt like he felt about Madonna and being around her being white and so on and so forth. You know, all of those factors, I would think. And, you know, as a human being, as you would think, if somebody told you those things that Tupac told her that we saw in the letter, I don't think that you would rush to bail Tupac out of jail either. Yeah. Your boy DELRAY, straight game.